Physical health and spiritual health are very closely connected.
The obesity crisis in America is not a spiritual problem.
The American Religious Town Hall meeting is now in session.
Welcome, friends, to the American Religious Town Hall meeting, where the discussion of religious, political, and social issues is meant to promote the cause of religious freedom and to help us better understand each other. And now, here's your host and moderator, Pastor Jerry Lutz.
Welcome again to another program of the American Religious Town Hall meeting. We're so very glad you have joined us. As Mark has said, this program is important because it helps us to understand each other, and it also advances the cause of religious liberty, something I know you appreciate. Before we get started, I'd like for you to meet our panelists. Let's begin with the gentleman to my right.
I am Bishop Michael Olson, and I am the Bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fort Worth, Texas.
I'm Rabbi Jordan Offsire, living in an active retirement, teaching and leading services in our community.
I'm Tom Plumley. I'm a minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. I serve as the senior minister of First Christian Church, Fort Worth, Texas.
Hi, I'm Dan Stearns, pastor of the Richardson Seventh-day Adventist Church, Seventh-day Adventist pastor serving in the Dallas-Fort Worth mission field.
My name is Canon John Peterson. I'm an Episcopal priest in the Diocese of Washington, and I'm the director of the Center for Global Justice and Reconciliation at the Washington National Cathedral.
I'm Carl Trovald, Dean of the College of Liberal Arts at Concordia University in Austin, Texas, a university affiliated with Lutheran Church Missouri Synod.
Well, thank you for being here, gentlemen. As you can see, we have a quite diverse and very capable panel assembled here today. And again, I do thank you for being here. Looking forward to this discussion. According to some religious leaders, an obesity epidemic in the church appears to be undermining the primary purpose of the church and its missions work by straining church budgets, decidedly absorbing money that could be spent on missions abroad, and consuming the time and energy of pastors and church members. The contemporary church culture has unwittingly contributed to the rise in overweight and obese parishioners. Today, it is rare to hear a sermon preached on the stewardship of the physical body, and perhaps even more rare, on the vice of gluttony. It has become a secret and acceptable vice in the modern church, it seems. As one writer has said, tables at potlucks strain under the weight of pound cakes, pizza, fried chicken, and cheesecake, and fellowship is not considered complete without these rich, decadent, and yes, even addictive foods. The sacred Sunday or Sabbath ritual between services in many places of worship is donuts and bagels and cream cheese and coffee with cream and sugar. And finally, Platonic dualism, the belief that the spirit is sacred and the physical body is corrupt and inconsequential, seems to perpetuate this problem and assists many in justifying unhealthy nutritional habits. Churches across America stand at a critical crossroad, urgently in need of a decision to be a cause or a cure to the growing epidemic of disease and obesity. But in the midst of every crisis is an opportunity. Today, I would like our panelists to consider these three questions at least. First, what is the solution to the obesity crisis in the church, if one exists? The second question is, does one's health have anything to do with spirituality? And finally, has the contemporary church unwittingly contributed to the rise of overweight and obese parishioners? Well, that is our subject for today. Let's return now to those who made the opening statements, and for that we go back to Pastor Stearns. And thank you for being here. You're up first. Can you please tell us more about your thoughts concerning your opening statement?
Yes. Growing up, I remember my mother was always trying to lose weight and never could and ate healthfully, and my dad never had a problem with weight, and he ate junk food all the time. So I learned at a young age that sometimes what you eat and what you weigh are not too closely connected, but because of metabolism. But many times there are some spiritual connections. In fact, getting into the Bible deeper, we begin finding a lot of interconnectedness between health, physical health, and spiritual health. 3 John 2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things you might prosper and be in health, just as your soul prospers." Physical health, spiritual health. We find in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, chapter 6, chapter 10 that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that whatever we eat or drink or whatever we do should be done to the glory of God. Exodus 15 says that if God's people who were brought out of Egypt in the Exodus would follow the dietary principles that were outlined there, they'd have none of the diseases the Egyptians had. And of course, in Manchester University in England, they've actually autopsied some of those mummies, and they found that they had heart disease and some of the other things that we have. So I think that there's a close connection. I'd never read this one until more recently, though, in Proverbs 23, verse 2. "And put a knife to your throat if you are a man given to appetite." And I thought, whoa, maybe I need to be a little bit more conscientious. There are people who struggle, and once the pounds come on, it's so hard to get them off. But I believe with God's help that it's possible to have better health, and physical health will give us better clarity in our mind and better spiritual health.
Oh, thank you very much. And now back over to Carl Trovald. Dr. Trovald, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
And you took a little bit of a different tack to begin today. Can you please tell us more about that?
Yes, I said that the obesity crisis isn't a spiritual problem, and I totally recognize that physical health and our spiritual health are certainly connected. But I think that the issue of obesity is not just a church problem. I think the church is taking too much credit if they think they're causing part of the problem. It's an American cultural problem. And I mean, first of all, on an individual basis, obesity can be caused by hormones, by metabolism, which are non-moral issues. So they're really not connected to spirituality at all. They're just connected to how a person is physically. Then there are the behavioral ones, which are very complicated to talk about because culture influences how we make choices. And I was studying obesity in America, and in terms of cultural effects, some of the causes, and this is a work in progress, indicate that one of the causes is a reduced physical activity in the workplace. In 1960, 50% of all jobs required moderate physical activity. In 2010, less than 20%, and that the average male burns 142 less calories per year in their job, which doesn't sound less, which is over the course of a year in their workplace. I'm sorry, it's per day. Over the course of a year, though, it ends up being 33 pounds or 28 pounds or something. So you just think that's just from working. Secondly, there's an increase in leisure time a decrease in leisure time activities, or increase in leisure time activities where it's non-physical. So not only are we not getting more exercise at work culturally, on average, on our leisure time, we're exercising less. So we're not even making up for it as a culture. And we don't do active things. We sit more, and you have more of a chance of dying of a heart attack or getting diabetes. Every hour spent in front of the TV, for example, they say actually it can be a health threat. And then third is the whole modern eating. Portion sizes are larger. Companies have designed foods to be more tasty, which means they typically have more fat and more salt. And of course, it's hard to say no to things. I mean, we were all supper last night, and you know, these giant plates of food, and they're delicious, and it's hard to. And then we're raised, you know, Mom says, clean your plate. I guess what I'm saying is that the church has been affected by a broader cultural problem, and I think churches are a key place to help fight it by giving people good information and helping encourage proper health.
So what we've learned so far is this is a much broader subject and a deeper topic than what it might have first appeared to be. So let's come over to Reverend Plumley. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
And your position or your observations on this matter.
Yeah, I'd like to cite other studies, multiple studies, that indicate that religious people actually live longer. And they do so not because of their eating habits, but largely because they smoke less and they drink less on average, and because of closer relationships that they have within the faith community, that leads them to be generally happier than the average person that is not a part of a faith community. And so those are some healthy things. I think it is important to say, however, that our faith families need to be cautious about the way we approach this. We are very accepting, and we want to be accepting and loving of each person, and to help them to love their body as well as all of them. And so there are some things that we can do as a community to lower the calorie intake of the thing, at activities that are a part of the faith group's activity. So.
Thank you very much. Let's come across the table now to Rabbi Offsire, and your observations, please.
Thank you. Listening very carefully, it occurs to me that all of us have sources to quote. We quote the sources that usually agree with us in the first place, and so the process of quoting sources is selective. But more pointedly, in that context, Maimonides, the great medieval Jewish theologian and mathematician, he was he had a mastery of many fields. He was also, by the way, physician to the Sultan. Maimonides said that we should live in a way where there is a moderation in all things. He believed in balance, and that's become a rather a modern concept as well. When things are out of balance, we know, with respect to who we are emotionally and physically, we aren't going to be nearly as healthy. So that's the suggestion I'd like to add. A moderation in all things.
All right, thank you very much. Let's come down the table there. Canon Peterson, welcome back.
Thank you so very much.
And your position, please.
Well, I have been thinking a great deal about the paragraphs in your moderator's statement about potlucks, and so I'm going to take.
So making you hungry now?
Yes,
no?
well,
I'm
going to take the
Okay.
potlucks on in my comments that I'm going to have to make. One of the reasons why so oftentimes our potluck tables are filled with the food that is on the table is because it's inexpensive food. Mac and cheese and spaghetti and things that you can serve without going to too much expense. And really, in many respects, to eat healthy today costs money. And I think that we are dealing here with a cultural issue as well as medical issues, et cetera, when we see our potluck tables or our dinner tables at home with mac and cheese, pastas, and other inexpensive selections of food, because many families cannot afford anything more than that. And I think that we have to be realistic that this is a way in which one fills one's stomach. And while I am critical about that in one respect with regard to potlucks, particularly at church, I certainly understand why priests or pastors or ministers, rabbis, imams are afraid to speak out on this subject. And all they have to do is we have to look at the attacks that Michelle Obama has taken in her campaign to have children in this country eat better, more fruits, more vegetables. And her urging people to take advantage of more physical activities. She has urged, for example, daily hot lunch programs in school, not to serve junk food, but instead foods that are healthy, like vegetables and fruits. And what type of response has she gotten? Tremendous criticisms. Members of the House of Representatives, for example, are now threatening to cut back on all standards and lowering the quality of food for our children that they receive in school. Imagine just a couple of years ago, Congress declared that a slice of pizza should count as a vegetable in school lunches.
In Ronald Reagan's time, it was ketchup.
Yeah, yes, that's right. The ketchup is a vegetable.
The vegetable.
So the insanity of this and the culture in which we live, I believe, bears a tremendous responsibility for the subject that we're discussing today and the obesity that we have in our nation.
Thank you very much. Let's come up the table here. Bishop Olson, welcome, and your position, please.
Well, I think all of these points have been very well spoken. Just following up on Canon Peterson, I think I think we have to be careful just to make obesity the only metric by which we measure things. I think that sort of becomes sort of the one of the contemporary things that everybody can be against. I think health involves more than just simply acute care. In other words, that so much of our money for health maintenance is really less about maintenance and more about fixing things. And one of the ways that we're able to promote health, which was required, is by diet, exercise. But also, as has been pointed out, this in our contemporary society, this is sort of a luxury of time. And a number of years ago, sort of a public commentator mentioned that, America is the only country where all of our poor people are overweight. And it was sort of a sarcastic comment, like, as opposed to poverty in the developing world, where we see people actually starving through malnourishment. I think that's a very cynical approach, and frankly, though, it is one of the countries where our people are overweight, but that's precisely because the food that's available to them is unhealthy, and it takes time and it takes a luxury and an investment, really, that many of the poor and single-parent homes don't have to provide for a healthy meal and to eat well. And so I think it comes to us that we have to be sensitive to this issue, but also realize that there is a basic responsibility of stewardship of health that we don't just handle ourselves, but that we have to handle as a family and as a community as well.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I read an article about food preparation as well. I think that relates to this. Not many people know how to prepare even some of the simple foods that they might have access to, which might even be less expensive in the end if you know how to put things together. But maybe we can talk about that sometime along the way here as well. Let's come across over to Rabbi Ofsar. You wanted to make another point, please.
Yes, I did, and I would. And that is a kind of question. Is it possible that these tables that are overflowing with food, that at least one of the thoughts that might have gone into it was to say we need to be concerned not only for our parishioners, but for the homeless that may come into our churches and synagogues, and find that the food may not be haute couture, but it is certainly healthy. And I'm reminded in that somewhat of a connection that years ago I remember people, Jewish people in this case, who would go to the to those tables and take food with them, and I realized that a number of them were Holocaust survivors, whose experience in life wasn't the kind of food that they had, but the absence of it altogether, and that being part of their psychic historical context. And those were the reasons why they did what they did.
Thank you. Next to you, Pastor Stearns again, and then we'll come across to Reverend Plumley.
Yeah, I was interested in reading not long ago in Huffington Post, July 31, 2014, that once again it's been identified that Seventh-day Adventists live 10 years longer than the average population. And so I'm asked fairly frequently, what are you doing differently? What's happening? And the simple answer is the acronym New START that we talk about. N is nutrition, E is exercise, W is water, S is sunshine, T is temperance, A is air, R is rest, and T is trust in God's power. And as we concentrate on those areas, we see that it begins to bring that balance, bring that equilibrium. And so we don't just keep it to ourselves, but we believe that one of the things God wants us to do is to encourage all of communities and all of societies to look at these principles that really are rooted in the creation stories in the Bible, in the early chapters of the Bible, to see what God can do in their life to bring health, stability, and freedom from some of the habits that may be destructive to them.
Thank you. We just have a few seconds left, but Reverend Plumley.
Yeah, talking about the poor and poor dietary habits and the availability of the non-availability of nutritious foods. One of the things that we're doing at our congregation, we have an eye clinic, an eye and vision clinic, and as people are there, we're trying to develop a video presentation that will have them, as they're waiting to see the doctor, be able to learn more about how to eat more healthily and how to prepare things for their family on a budget.
Thank you. Well, we're out of time for this segment. It went by so quickly. But there is an important message I'd like for you to listen to. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Thank you, Pastor Lutz. We hope you are enjoying today's program. If you would like to learn more about the American Religious Town Hall, please visit our website at americanreligious.org. That's americanreligious.org. There you can read about the mission and history of the program, learn about the Town Hall estates, and view past programs by clicking the appropriate menu buttons. Each week, Pastor Lutz looks forward to receiving your letters. You may write to him at the address shown on your screen. Send your letters to Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. That's Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. Thank you for writing, and thank you for watching. And now, back to you, Pastor Lutz, and today's closing statements.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome back. I do look forward to hearing from you, especially to hear about your suggestions for future topics, and also appreciate your prayers. Many of you write telling us that we can be assured that you're thinking about us and praying for us here at the Town Hall. That is greatly appreciated. And for your contributions as well. That helps to keep this program running and on the air. Now let's go to our summations. We'll begin with Bishop Olson.
We tend to run in two extreme attitudes in our culture regarding health. Either one that it's something over which we have absolute and total control, or one in which we have absolutely no control at all and it's just a matter of chance. I think, in fact, though, the health requires our stewardship, and a stewardship based in a spirituality as well as in right reason.
Thank you very much. And now, Reverend Plumley.
Thank you. I have a question about some of the studies that are out about obesity in this country. You know, just in preparation for the program, I read 1/3 of all American adults are obese, and in the very next article it says 2/3. 2/3 of all American adults are obese. The standards by which we're judged also vary greatly. So we need to take it all with a grain of dietary salt, I guess.
Salt substitute.
The salt substitute, yeah. But do realize that faith groups tend to be places where we want to be accepting of people and not lay a lot of guilt on folks.
All right, thank you very much. Canon Peterson, your summation.
I've actually changed my summation since Tom's comment. In my doctor's office, and I have a great doctor, there's a chart of where the level of obesity starts. And I mean, you have to weigh 50 pounds before where that chart begins with people being obese. So I think that, I certainly agree with you in relationship to just different standards and different levels of what's going on. But I want to seriously say that I think it's important for the church, the synagogue, the mosque, to really take health issues seriously. But to do so, there has to be a seismic shift in our own cultural understanding, the cultural situation under which we live. In other words, we have to change our own attitudes and to be able to really start to think about what it means to eat healthy.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Trovall, please, your summary.
Yes, This is a constant struggle for me. I'm not a person of weak willpower, nor is my wife. But I mean, we struggle regularly in our family to try to have healthy meals, and when we're out to have healthy meals. And the cultural pressure is absolutely incredible. And that's not to blame the culture, but it's also naive to say that it doesn't have a tremendous impact. And I think the only way to counter that is to find communities like churches, mosques, synagogues, health communities in which one receives mutual encouragement to eat healthy, that one can be provided with good information, because the stewardship of our bodies is very critical.
Thank you very much. And Pastor Cerns.
Yeah, on a very practical note, if viewers are struggling with this area, just a few simple things. One is God will help us. He says He will help us, and we can call on Him. Number two, drink more water. A lot of it starts by drinking everything but water. And number three, eat more fruits, grains, nuts, vegetables. Even though they're a little more expensive, in the long run you save on the medical bills. And number four, find other people who are encouragers rather than critics. And those things will help.
All right, thank you for the practical advice. Now, next to you, Rabbi Ofsire, your summation, please.
In a very pragmatic way, if I may, obesity is the consequence. Obesity is the consequence of a whole series of factors. The underlying concern should be health. And there is so much emphasis on obesity. We should begin to place much more emphasis on health, on good health. And when we do that, the consequences will be more healthful for all of us.
All right, thank you very much. Well, this has been a very helpful discussion, I think, today, and for us around the table as well as we hope for those who have been watching today's program. We look forward to coming back with another topic that is close to this, but you'll have to stay tuned for that. For today, we're very glad that you've joined us and hope that you'll come back again. And please invite your friends to watch this program on a regular basis, and we do encourage you to write and let us know what you think, and your suggestions are always very appreciative. Now, the charter of the American Religious Town Hall provides that Roman Catholics, Protestants, Jews, educators, and others may appear on this program and can declare their beliefs without hesitancy, and the rest of the members of the panel will uphold and guarantee that American right to all who will appear, irrespective of race or creed, so that the rest of the world can see that here in America we believe in civil and religious freedom, not only in theory, but in reality. And now, friends, until next week at the same time and over the very same channel, the American Religious Town Hall meeting stands adjourned. And may the God of all of us bless all of you.